Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon waterfall tank, and the plants in this tank are getting just about out of control. You can't even see the waterfall in there anymore. I mean, you can see where the water's flowing into the tank, but you can't see into the structure at all. If we look really closely from way up here, you can see the water flowing in, and then it kind of vanishes. You have to get pretty much in certain places and look in there just in the right angle, and you can see a little bit of water splashing and flowing back there. So I'm probably going to get in here tonight and do a little bit of pruning and trim the plants back a little. But the main thing I wanted to talk about before I get in here and do any work is they're back. If I can get it to focus there. I don't know if you can see them or not, but I've got aphids again. And the only thing I can think of is the other day I brought in a new plant from the garden center. It was a freebie, end of the season kind of deal. And I stuck it right here on the front of my tank down here on the bottom. I had it sitting right here in this little corner area. And within a few days, I noticed that it had those little, I don't even know what they are, some kind of bug that looks like little tufts of cotton, little white fuzzy things, but they're a bug. It had those on it. And so I said, well, that's enough of that. And that went right back outside. And I kind of forgot about it. It's been sitting out in the yard. I haven't really worried too much about it. But this morning, I noticed what looked like a few little spots that appeared to be aphids on a couple of the a couple of branches here on my, whatever this stuff is called. Sweet potato vine, that's what it's called. And now, I come in here and I look, and again, I don't know why the camera just refuses to focus on this little vine right here, but you can clearly see it's got aphids. Let's see if it'll focus on my hand. There we go. You can clearly see it's got aphids on it. So I'm going to get in there and trim it back a little bit. I don't know how much I'm going to trim it back. I don't know really what I'm going to trim back. It's so thick and bushy. I don't really know where to start or what to trim back. I can't really cut back much of either one of my arrowhead plants because they're sort of intact. You can't really remove too much of those. I suppose I could thin them out a little bit. I might remove my Rex begonia here, this sort of reddish white plant, but I really like this one. I really enjoy it, especially when you see it from the backside and you look through the leaves this way. It almost looks like stained glass. Really, really pretty plant. And of course the front side of the leaves are even more attractive. It doesn't really do it justice on camera, but they are sort of silvery. They don't look as white as they do on camera. They look much more silvery in person, and they're sort of satiny, shiny, like it's a really interesting looking texture on the leaf. So again, one of my favorites. I really like that. But we have started setting up the upstairs in the kitchen. I always pile lights up, and we start stacking plants up and bringing racks in and sitting them on the floor and everything else. So I've already got one of my big LED panels upstairs lighting up some plants in the kitchen. Might not be out of the question to think that this Rex begonia here might end up in the kitchen as well. And then this is a poinsettia that we got last year, and just for the heck of it, I wanted to see if I could keep a poinsettia alive over the course of a year. And it was a tiny little thing last year, and it's gotten quite large this year. So I'm not sure how to make it turn colors. It's probably got to do... The mothership has landed. It's probably got to do with the hours of daylight and that, the photo period that it gets every day and how much light it's getting and that sort of thing. So I might be able to look in to find out what's going on with the poinsettia, but that should be easy enough to get to turn colors for me. Hopefully we'll get a nice red poinsettia, and that'll be my successful keeping it alive for one full year after we got it. So I'm going to get started on this. I guess we'll do a simple before and after. There's not really going to be a whole lot of after. I suppose it'll depend mostly on how much plant material I remove. the tank itself is going to get a fairly good water change. I will be removing the filter material, and that of course will allow the water to flow a lot more vigorously, so we'll have a lot more water flow after we're done the water change. The water level will be higher, of course, and then the water will not be nearly as tea stained or tannin stained as it is now. So we'll go ahead and call this scene right here your before. Alright, and there's the after. So I wound up doing a really big water change. I did about, I don't know, at least 60 to 70%. It was way down there. I mean, I took the water down to probably about here before I turned it back on and started refilling it. I got the glass wiped down. I did a big gravel vac. This tank really accumulates the loam and crud and stuff at the bottom very quickly. So I wiped the outside of the glass down as well because of the splashing nature of this tank. And then when this one has the filter up and running properly and is really flowing the way it should be, not just dripping like it is now, I get a lot of splashing on this one. You can see all the sort of debris and stuff on the glass there. Well, a lot of that actually makes its way up onto this glass as well. So cleaning the outside of this tank is actually more important most days than cleaning the inside of this one. But it looks nice and bright and cheery now. We can see into it well enough. Nothing really to report while I was in there. I did get the surface cleared off quite a bit because of all the stuff I trimmed and groomed away. You can even see some of the cut lengths here where I just left it up in there, and either it'll root in and keep growing or it won't. I did cut away a few of the rushes, these things, that were looking a little bit dead or kind of hanging down, sticking into the water. I don't mind a little bit of this right here because it kind of masks my light back there. You can't really notice it too much the way I've got it spray painted, but plants around it really kind of help hide it as well. So I left a few of those there, but I did trim out all the sort of dead and yellowing daylily fronds. These here being the daylily fronds, all this like sort of grassy looking stuff. So I cleared all those out. I trimmed a bunch of the, forgot what it's called again, sweet potato vine. Still have some of this sort of purple one back here. I don't have a lot of it, but that doesn't grow real leggy. That one's tending to grow real bushy. But I cut a bunch of the other one out. This one here that's sort of green and white and pink and variegated. In fact, it's all right there. So I cut all that out. Again, I do sell my aquarium plants. I'll go ahead and spray these all down with soapy water and everything, and then I'll throw them in a planter or whatever. So I'll have some sweet potato vine available if anybody wants any of that. It's not like it's difficult to find, although this time of year I don't know if you're going to find it out in any garden centers or whatever. But I will spray it down with the soapy water to make sure there's no aphids on it before I box that up and ship it if anybody's interested. Plus I also sell my water sprite and my Java fern and temple plant and all kinds of stuff. So again, check out my email in the description down below and get in touch with me and we can talk about whatever plants you're interested in. So I cut a lot of that vine out of the way. I cut again some of the more dead looking rush here. I moved those out of the way, or cut those out of the way. I took my begonia here and just used a little simple piece of string and tied that up, pulled that up out of the way a little bit so it's not quite so leaning over the tank anymore. You can actually see the corner of the tank now. I looked at trimming back some of this arrowhead plant, but it's just, I don't know what to do or where I would even begin. Where I really need to begin, and it's just going to be tedious and monotonous, is to go through there. You see all those dead leaves. They don't just pull out. I just thought a gentle little tug would remove them, and I was going to go through there and clear all that dead leaves out, but they don't. They're really on there, and, you know, I mean, you got to yank so hard, I'm afraid. See, I still didn't even pull the whole thing off. I'm afraid it's going to pull the whole thing over. So what I'm going to need to do is get my scissors with the micro tips on them where I can really get in there and just snip, snip, snip one at a time and just work all of those dead leaves out of there, because that really is starting to look unattractive. It looks like the whole plant's dying, but it's not. It's just old leaves that have cycled through and they're done. They don't need, you know, they're not being used anymore, and we've got all these fresh new ones up here. So that, and I was actually looking back here, it almost seems like the more this arrowhead plant grows away from the tank, there's just a whole lot of nothing up here in this whole entire top section. So I don't know if I should put something up here or if I should really start thinking about breaking this down. Am I going to run this over the winter? Did I just reinfest it with aphids? Am I going to have to start that whole process again? I did spray it all down with the soapy water. So I didn't spray everything down, but I sprayed all of the stuff out in front of us. I sprayed my geranium right here. I sprayed a little bit of the Rex begonia, and then of course I sprayed most of everything that's out here in front of us. And you can see I went through with that much soapy water. So, you know, not a ton of it, but I got in there and sprayed it fairly thoroughly. And that's what I did before, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it, and eventually there was no more aphids. So, worst case scenario, that's what I'll be doing again. But I really hope not. I hope I got on top of whatever little bit was in there today. I know it's silly to think I did, but one can hope. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I don't know. It's wrapping up the end of the summer. We'll have to wait and see how things go. I'm still kind of not really thinking too much about my native tank. It did cross my mind today while I was out at the reservoir on the kayak. I thought about, I looked at some roots on the side of the, water, or not roots. What's the word I'm looking for? Like tree trunk type roots, root balls, root masses, whatever. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean. So I saw some of that, some interesting woodwork, and that kind of made me think about the native tank again. So hopefully before the weather shifts too much, we will be able to get something taken care of, and we'll do something with that native tank. If not, it'll be what it is, and next spring there's always, next spring, and we'll try again. We'll see what else happens with it. So there you go, everybody. That's a look at my waterfall tank before and after. A nice little water change and some much needed plant trimming. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget this one is my waterfall tank. And I'll see you real soon in the next one.